Hello, everybody. Welcome to the review from Cinematic Escape on YouTube. It is 8:02 p.m. I just finished watching the Emmett Till historical drama titled Till, and as per usual, before I would start a review, I'd always say spoiler free. Given I'm going to assume that majority of people who are well versed in history or know a little bit about it are already familiar with the Emmett Till tragedy, so I am not going to be concerned about any type of spoilers here. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the details of this review. Growing up, I must admit, I was never necessarily what you would consider to be a historical fanatic, if you will. Most of my favorite subjects at school involved English, PE, and art, and that's about it. I didn't really care for any other subjects. Once I got into college, I became interested in classes like philosophy, psychology, history, theater, and of course, more in English, more of the predominantly discussion based courses where it allowed you to become overly familiar with other people's thought processes, and it allows you to not only learn from them but to also gain ideas of how it is to discuss with people who might not necessarily agree with you. So, having said that, when it comes to history, I didn't really begin to learn about history until, for for lack of a better terms, for the worst part of 2 years is what really helped me become more interested in the subject. Uh, I love learning anything. I'm a sucker for anything related to World War II, Nazi Germany, the Holocaust, Auschwitz. I love learning historical information from that era of history. I do enjoy learning about the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, and of course, unfortunately, learning about slavery. That was more or less a requirement when at least it was for us when I was in school. Uh, Once again, the Emmett Till story is one of the most horrific, barbaric tales in American history that actually paved the way for the civil rights movement. Uh, when you think about how much has changed throughout the years, it's very interesting to see how far we've come along, yet we still have so far to go. And is really served as a chilling reminder for me personally as to how dangerously close we were to possibly having something like this occur again for the last 2 years. Most people are well aware of, given the censorship and the misinformation and just everything that had been going on for 2 years, along with alleged, well, almost predominantly forced segregation to an extent. So watching this film really brought some interesting parallels to what is essentially relevant to our times. Now, the film is detailing Mammy Till's journey into fighting racial injustice and, of course, the avenging, not necessarily avenging, but bringing attention to what happened to her son, Emmett Till. Now, anyone who has read the story and seen the pictures or watched documentaries know what was done to him. And what was done to Emmett Till was absolutely barbaric and tragic and horrific. And you find yourself wondering exactly how could any human being do this to a child? And you don't, and really, in actuality, it's not a human being that would do that. That's a monster. So watching this film, before watching it actually, I was a bit on the fence because I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to react to the scenes. And given how they did it, they more or less confirmed that you didn't see what happened to him in the film. That prompted me to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and watch this film and be able to do a review on it. Uh, the film, from what I could tell, is very accurate. I'm not exactly sure what type of child Emmett Till was, so that when the actor's performance for in this film, I wasn't exactly sure if that was accurate or not because to me, he came off more as someone who, at least in this performance, came off as a child who really wasn't aware of his surroundings. He just simply took everything in stride, which a child normally does. But I thought that he was probably a bit more timid and shy, based off of what how his mother described him. So he came off a bit too, at least his performance came off a bit too, I guess, charismatic to an extent, if that makes any sense. But the moments where you see of him in his pure, simple innocence is what really drives the point home of what was done to him. Danielle Deadwater, portrays Mammy Till, and I have to say she does an amazing job as the mother of Emmett Till. How Emmett Till's mother did not, figuratively and physically, if how her soul did not leave her body, when she saw the aftermath of what happened to her child, and when I say how her soul did not leave her body, I will never understand how she did not die on the spot. What really moved me in this cinematic story was there was a scene where Emmett Till's mother, when the casket comes back, and of course you're not necessarily seeing the end results just yet, which what and I will tell you what really surprised me. The scene where you see the casket, and this is coming from my experience. When my father passed away, and I saw the casket at his funeral, I remember how I just crumbled. The scene where Daniel Deadweiler captures that sense of emotion, anguish, and pain, and separation, and wanted to not accept what was happening before her eyes was such a moving and powerful and impactful experience that I found myself experiencing that same sentiment as a memory of how I reacted when I saw my father's casket. And the scene that surprised me the most was I didn't think they were actually going to do this, but when they actually showed, as I'm going to assume, really, as close as they could get to how he looked at what was done to him, was that is what shook me. I could not believe that they actually managed to get it as closely as they could possibly get it as to what we have witnessed from the pictures. And I have to tell you, how her soul did not leave her body at that moment is nothing short of a miracle in and of itself. When I saw my father gone in the ICU, he was while our tragedies are similar to a certain extent, her tragedy is far more intense and painful because at least when I looked at my father, he was at least recognizable and left intact. Her son was not left intact and completely unrecognizable. So how she managed to live on until 2003, fighting for just the right to live, for everybody to live, is nothing short of miraculous and inspiring, needless to say the least. I've always been a fan of period films, and as I mentioned, usually my favorite period films are always associated with World War II and Nazi Germany, Auschwitz, and the Holocaust. So that subject has always interested me. This film, and you learn about Medgar Evers, who had a profound effect on continuing the civil rights movement as well. Everything about this film was just uniquely powerful and emotional, and had a significant impact that allows you to recognize that when it comes to history, it's monumentally important to be able to embrace and discuss these atrocities rather than attempt to cancel them or take down certain statues or rewrite history. You cannot rewrite the atrocities of when the civil rights movement was going into effect. You have crimes against humanity, literally humanity, that was going on at that point, and anyone who attempted to at least provide some sense of resistance were met with violence immediately. And I've always told my parents that if the time machine was created, I'd always want to be in a position to where I would go back to the hippie times. But if I could go back to any moment in history and remain unseen and just witness history in the making, I would essentially go back to, say, the 40s or the 50s, remaining unseen, mind you, and being able to just take in what was going on and how horrific it was, and how it just overall we're in an era to an extent where now everyone's offended by everything and no one wants to discuss atrocities pertaining to history. But the importance of history is to be able to learn from it, that way we don't repeat it. Unfortunately, these past 2 years saw how we were dangerously close to repeating what happened during the civil rights era or even the Holocaust. It was just so chilling that I do believe it's very important for everyone to watch this film and to come to the understanding that it's not necessarily about white or black. It really is not about color. It's simply about everyone in totality. It's about humanity And what happened to Emmett Till was absolutely just, once again, barbaric and inhumane. No one, I don't care what was alleged. And we've heard a variation of stories that are related to what actually occurred within the shop involving Carolyn Bryant. Either way, that did not deserve the result. That result did not deserve what happened to Emmett Till. It just doesn't. There's no justification for it. And before anyone, I sincerely hope that this film isn't used as a means to provide more division amongst the population. This is a film that should bring everybody together of all races and have everyone understand that there's a reason why this story, there's a reason why history should be discussed. There's a reason why history should never be canceled or rewritten as a means of attempting to hide what has occurred in the past. We learn about it that way we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. And another thing that I found very interesting about this film is how, when you really think about how terrifying it was, how terrifying it must have been for the individuals to know that, okay, they're taking this child and there's absolutely nothing they could do to stop it. If they even attempted to provide some means of violent retaliation against them, they were going to receive that much worse in return. Imagine being in a position knowing that there's absolutely nothing you could do about it to change it, and all you could do is stand there in a helpless situation and know that whatever outcome is going to occur is not going to be it's not going to be a desirable ending at all. So I found the film to be uniquely powerful and interesting and very informative and emotional. As someone who has lost a parent myself, that type of pain, her pain of seeing her child in that state, I couldn't even imagine. And that, how she captured the emotions of someone who has lost someone deeply important to them, that emotional connection of love that you have with that person, it was so realistic and raw that I saw myself in her, because I could relate to that feeling of seeing my father in that state. It was those type of tears and pain and anguish is not something that, it's not something that you take lightly. And very few people can relate to it. And I was able to relate to her in that moment, and how she survived, I'll never understand. For the way the film was shot, the cinematography was beautiful, and how Daniel Deadweiler deserves all the adulation, the praise for her performance, because she captured the emotional and the emotionality and the strength that was required for her to portray the character of portray the historical figure of Mamie Till. She did an amazing job, and I hope she does receive some awards and recognition for her performance, because it was just that powerful. I do recommend this film. Everything about it was something everything about it was enjoyable for me personally, despite how emotional and harsh it was. I do recommend it, highly recommend it for everybody, even your children. I do believe it's important for children to be able to watch this film and understand exactly how important in history it is to learn. So with that said, I give Till 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10. I highly recommend it. Be sure to be on the lookout for my next review. Most likely it's going to be Pray for the Devil, and afterwards it's going to be Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So I hope you guys remain safe and healthy, and you'll be hearing from me again. Take care, and peace out.